Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Age Interrupted podcast. I'm your host, Jill White, functional pharmacist and certified personal trainer. And I help women defy aging, interrupt aging by learning to put on muscle, by lifting weights, and having a healthful nutrition plan. And today we're going to talk about the A in my proprietary system, the framework system. The A stands for attitude. And our attitude towards this, or really anything in life, really is going to dictate on how much we get out of it. It's our mindset. It's very all-encompassing. Basically, it's how you're going to view something, how you're going to internalize it and let your brain process what you're going through, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And you can imagine if your brain processes whatever it is as a good thing, it's going to be more enjoyable, even if it's the exact same thing that maybe you have a bad attitude about, and your brain's going to process it in a negative way. Suddenly you aren't going to get a lot out of it. You're going to dread it, and you're not going to probably do a very good job at it, perhaps self sabotage even. So the attitude that we have is very important. And the best news I have for you today is that we can decide what our attitude will be towards anything. So in particular, towards this program, towards your health, towards your food choices. One example I have for you would be your attitude towards eating grilled chicken. Say you're at a restaurant and you order grilled chicken, some green beans, and a side of rice pilaf or something. And you look across the table and there is a person you're eating with, or maybe someone at a different table, and they're having fried chicken, loaded mashed potatoes, and fried okra. The attitude that you have of what's on your plate versus what you see on their plate, assuming that you like those things, right? Like picture a plate of not healthy food that you actually like. Maybe you don't like fried chicken. Or like me, I'm gluten-free. It would have to be gluten-free fried chicken, but you see what I'm saying. The attitude that you have towards what's on your plate, this healthful, nutrient-dense plate of food that is going to serve you well. It's going to serve you in a positive way, as opposed to the fried food, the smothered covered food with gravy and cheeses. Not that we can't have cheese on our plate, but it's a portion of cheese, right? It's not floating cheese, floating in gravy. So the attitude that we have makes a big difference on A, how much we enjoy the meal we have, and B, how we consider this whole process of eating healthy. We want to enjoy the journey, right? Because it is a lifelong process. We have to make good decisions of what we fuel our body with. And if we view it and have a good attitude about it, it makes it so much more enjoyable. I promise. Another thing that is a good example of what we need to have a good attitude about, and I think we'll do a whole episode just on the scale, but we have to have a good attitude when we get on the scale, or more like when the scale looks back at us with whatever number it has. We can't expect for it, well, how should I say this? We can't let the scale dictate our attitude. That's a good way to put it. We can think that it should say a certain number, but we have to remember the scale is just a tool. It's not going to dictate if we have a good or a bad day. It's not going to dictate if we grab the box of cookies, go to the ice cream shop, or have our protein shake instead, right? We don't let the scale dictate us. We control our actions. Back to we're adults. We have to tell ourselves no and have discipline. But at the same time, we control how we view things that happen to us. We get on the scale, it's not doing what we want it to do. So then we can think, was I off plan? Have I been as tight as I could? Maybe it's that time in the month and I'm a little bloated. Maybe I'm just bloated because something I ate didn't agree with me fully, even though it was on plan, because that can happen too. But the key is we don't let the scale dictate our day and how we feel. We control our attitude. Attitude can also have to do with the fact that you maybe are interested in a new program. And when you come into a new program, sometimes we're confronted with new information. It can go against things that we think that we know or how we actually have been living. But my example about that is I can remember years ago, I had put on more weight, but I was eating organic. And every treat I had, was from Whole Foods or from Sprouts. And I can remember at one point, even though I thought I was wanting to be healthy, my actions were showing otherwise because I was choosing non-nutrient dense foods that weren't fueling my body appropriately. But I remember thinking, well, I may be fat, but I'm organic fat. So we just have to realize, and I kind of digress there a little bit. My point is maybe when you come into a new program, you learn new things, and we just have to set aside some of our notions that have gotten us to the point where we are now, where we're still looking for a better way. I'm working with somebody now, and when she learned about how much protein that we're going to be eating on this plan, she was just a little curious because it is often known that about 30 grams of protein is all our bodies can really process and utilize at a given time. And she asked me about it, and she had a great attitude, an open mind. And when I explained to her how, yes, that's true. And so we do want to make sure and spread our protein out through the day. We don't want to have just one meal or even 2 meals with all of the protein for the day that we'll eat. But we do a higher amount of protein than that because we want to flood our systems with protein. Because as we are in a calorie deficit to lose body fat, we don't want our bodies to tap into our skeletal muscle to process, all the weightlifting and working out that we're doing. So we want a surplus of protein just floating around available. And even though we might only be using 30 to 35 to 40 grams at a time, as far as absorbing, we are going to have more than that around just in case our bodies are interested and not want it, and we don't want it to use our skeletal muscle. So she had an amazing attitude. She took that information and it made sense. Instead of putting a wall up, like, no, this is different than what I've learned. This is not what I believe. She was open to having a new concept introduced to her. So that attitude, you see, it goes in all aspects of having a healthy life and a new nutrition plan. The good thing is, if you find yourself with a mindset or an attitude that's not the best, it can be improved. It does take work. It takes conscious effort. It's not always necessarily easy, but we can improve the attitude that we have. We can grow that muscle too. We can practice gratitude. We can practice, this is a hard one, just keeping our mouth shut, remembering that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and just listening more, listening to understand, not listening to react to something. And I mean, speaking for myself, it does come hard to myself and a lot of women that I know, but it can be a paradigm shift when you start working on improving your attitude. Life is actually a lot more enjoyable when you stop and smell the roses, be a little more carefree in life. As women, we really need to learn to, honestly, not just women, but people in general, we need to learn to work in our parasympathetic state, which is our rest and our digest state, our internal nervous system, our parasympathetic nervous system, of just breathing and relaxing and not freaking out about everything, as opposed to living in our sympathetic, direct, focus, ready, fight or flight system all the time. So one thing you can do, which isn't just for attitude, but for general digestive health, when you go to sit down to eat a meal, put your feet on the floor, take a couple of deep breaths in and out, and relax before you start to eat the meal that's put in front of you. And that will actually help improve the digestion of the meal and probably the enjoyment of the meal too. Be present at the meals that you eat. But as you see, just from this brief conversation about attitude, Our attitude and our mindset have so much to do with this walk, so much to do with our health and even our longevity, which is why I mentioned, practicing a gratitude journal, because that's been shown to improve health as well. We'll definitely continue to dive in to attitude and mindset because they are huge. They can truly make or break your ability to stick with your plan and also to make this that lifelong journey that I talked about. Because if you think about it, if you go to a restaurant, because at times you're going to, there's special occasions. I'm a social person. I actually like to try to go to eat occasionally, well, more than occasionally at a restaurant. And learning to make those good choices is everything at making this sustainable for that lifelong process. So having a good attitude about what you get to eat is important. So thanks for joining me today. If you have any questions, if you want to reach out, you can email me at jillwhitecoaching@gmail.com. Again, as a reminder, on Wednesdays, we will have We Talk Wednesdays. So I'm looking for people who want to join me and have a conversation on this platform. And remember to help people out. Find me, find this channel, comment on YouTube. It really changes the algorithms. Follow. However you want to find out a new episode has dropped, hit notifications. I always forget to say those things. I'm trying to get better, as you noticed the last episode too. But until next time, remember to enjoy the process because it's a lifelong journey.